Welcome back to day 4 of live streams before we close the doors to Masterpiece. And yes, I am post-shower, but I thought I would come on anyways and just get this out of the way. Because here's the thing. We've already looked at how you're the main character of your own life. And either you're going to be a bystander to the plot lines that unfold, or you're going to fully lean in and participate in them. Already looked at the character arc and how you're going to develop as you live life, as long as you're actively living it. We looked at doing shit for the plot, like really just letting yourself be fully engaged in just doing shit. Today, the conversation that we're having is the plot twist that inevitably comes from you being the main character, doing shit for the plot, and having some character development. As you're engaged in life, your identity is going to naturally evolve if you're really truly participating in your own life. And I'll give you a couple examples, right? When I was in high school, my identity was good student, quite popular, had to know everybody. The fact that there were some people who didn't know me was very uncomfortable to me. All of these kinds of identity stuff. And then I was like, but I don't want to stay in my hometown. As many kids from small towns experience, I had to go through the identity shift of then not being top dog, if you will, to being bottom barrel, nobody knows me in the city. Now, some people experience a culture shock. I didn't experience a culture shock moving from northern BC to Vancouver. But what I did experience was a complete identity redefinition. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have anyone who knew me. I didn't have anyone who knew the stories around me. I basically had to redefine myself. And it was really hard. I didn't have any guidance. I didn't know anyone who had done what I had done. And a lot of the people that I was interacting with on a daily basis were from Vancouver. And so they couldn't even relate really to the experience of leaving your high school friends behind and embracing a brand new life. Now, that's cool. But as you continue to engage in life, you develop new identities. So I let go of being top dog, not very well, from high school. And then I leaned into university. I got really into extracurriculars while in university. So I did Jeu de Commerce, which is a business school competition. I was not very good at it. I was a part of the social team. You shouldn't be surprised, but I was also awful at being on the social team. I did peak case competition. I did social innovation case competition. I did all of these things to create an identity that could support me through university. But here's the thing. Sometimes we create identities that aren't supportive to the mission that we actually need to play. And so what would happen was I would have this conflicting identity of here I am trying to be a good student, but then actually not grasping the material, and I would fail class. I failed calculus 3 times. I failed economics twice, and I just couldn't grapple with academia. And a number of different times, both of my parents had approached me and they're like, Steph, do you really think you need to pursue college? I get you're the first person to pursue university. I get that's a big deal to you, but is it the right fit? And I was so attached to the identity of being the first graduate of my family that I was like, no, I have to do this. I have to complete this. And so I was trying to bolster myself with false synthetic narratives that I thought would be supportive, but they were actually alienating to who I was. So I wasn't really participating in my life. I was participating in someone else's plot line for somebody else to go through university, for somebody else to grasp and acknowledge all the academic learnings. But I wasn't acknowledging my own, how I was struggling in school. And so I was constantly kind of fighting and battling my own system and how I learn and how I grow, just so I could fit whatever narrative was popular. Flash forward, I'm now realizing I can't afford to go to school and just pass classes because I actually need a tutor. And so I went and hired tutors, and then I had to work full time, and then I made too much money to qualify for student loans. And so I was in this weird dynamic. Finally, I realized that I had spent 10 years working on a degree that I wasn't going to finish. From 2010 to 2020 was when I finally realized that maybe it's time to let this go. Now, mind you, at the same time, I was working full time. So I was getting promoted. I was getting better paying jobs. I was getting jobs that was taking my degree and having me learn what I was not learning in academia in real life. Now, if you're an applied learner, this is what we do. This is how we learn. And so we don't really fit the academic narrative as well as we would like ourselves to. But the more that I leaned into, well, how do I learn? How do I grow? How do I understand things? I've realized I need to be in the doing of things to learn from them. You can't just give me theory. You can't just give me story. You can't just tell me to read something. I can't just study it and learn it. I have to do it to learn it. Finally, it took me 10 years to accept that. The letting go of the identity that not only got falsely created, but falsely reinforced, that I doubled down on through those 10 years was really hard. And it took me quite a bit to kind of disconnect from it, because who was I going to be if I let go of that narrative? Who was I going to be if I didn't complete my degree? How was I going to be able to survive? This world needs people to have their degrees, all of this stuff. All of these stories came in to reinforce a direction of life that wasn't true for me and hadn't been true for a decade. You can totally raise your hand. You can let me know in the comments if you relate to that particular experience where you tried to force something, you tried to make it happen for yourself, and it just was brick wall after brick wall after brick wall. When we hit brick walls, the traditional view of a brick wall is ram your head through it. Keep on keeping on and push and strive and get there. Except in the way that I see it now is that there was a limitation that I could not see as an invitation to get creative. If I really just zoomed out and took a look at who I am, who I was, and who I was becoming, I would have learned and accepted much sooner, granted I did not have the guidance at the time, to let go of my degree and to pursue something else. Now, do I regret pushing for 10 years and dropping out with 2 classes left? Not really. The only time I regretted dropping out was because I went and revised my resume and I was like, I can't put a completion date on that. And it was like pulling out skeletons in the closet of an old identity that I used to be attached to. And all of the insecurities came flustering in and were like, see, you shouldn't let go of that identity. See, like you fucked up and all of this stuff. And I felt so much grief, so much tenderness, so much almost internal humiliation. Like, how could I do that? How could I drop out with 2 classes left? But keeping in mind, I worked 10 years on this degree. At the same time, I was working as a financial controller for an international startup. I was traveling. I was mixing and matching with like some of the world's greatest entrepreneurs and biggest names in Silicon Valley. Like I was getting experience that my peers could not get. And for whatever reason, I was very enrolling, and I got my dean of the university to get me on the same page as the Forum of Oldham Brown, which is like a women's entrepreneurial group. I got sponsored by the Business Bank of Canada. Like I got so many experiences from that journey. And at the same time, there was ways where I was forcing it and pushing against it. And it was requiring so much more of me than if I just like let go and really accepted who I was and what journey my life wanted to take and what would feel a lot more enlivening than compressive. Because the thing about when our plot twists is that our plot is always trying to twist in alignment with how we're developing, with how we're growing, and with the experiences we need to evolve from. Early 2016, I had a mental breakdown, complete nervous breakdown. I'm talking collapsing on the floor, thought I was going crazy, drove myself to the psych ward. And I was very aware that all of my thoughts were very scattered and none of them were supportive. There was this distinct knowingness that my thoughts were separate and that the content of my thoughts was not useful, but they were overwhelming. And so I drove myself to the psych ward, and the doctor had said to me, the very fact that you are aware of the thoughts and you think you're going crazy is evidence that you're not. And that totally blew up my mind. I was like, wait a minute. And I would spend the next 6 months. So this is 2016. This is 4 years before I decide to let go of my degree. 2016, I decided I'm just going to lean into my life. I started doing, this is when I leaned into Landmark. This is when I would go to seminars and I started just declaring my desire. I was like, I'm going to work for a socially innovative company and I'm going to learn on the job. And I'm just going to take all the experience that I had at the time as an accountant in automotive and take it to wherever I can grow from. Little did I know my CEO was in the audience, right? So all of a sudden, here I was having a nervous breakdown because my degree was putting all this pressure on me. I got put on a medical leave of absence from my degree because it was too much stress, because I literally was bumping up against a brick wall, and then leaned into my life. And it was like, the plot twisted so fucking fast. Almost like if you take a rubber band and you spin it, and you spin it and you spin it and spin it, and it starts to compress and compress and compress. And then once it lets go, it just unravels. That's what it felt like. It felt like here I was twisting, compressing myself, trying to make myself work with this degree, and then absolutely hit a breaking point, and then finally had to let it all go. And then everything started to fall into place. I got hired as an accountant originally for this startup. Their bookkeeper left. I had to step into the role. I got all the responsibilities of a financial controller. I was on track to be one of the youngest CFOs. Like everything kind of checked off. The thing that I want to say about the identity shift that then happened is that I was still applying new identities to help me through whatever I was going through. As in, when I was in university, the good student, the one who does all the extracurriculars, that was an identity to support me through that. When I moved into startup world, same thing happened. The identity of a full-time, I don't want to use the word hustler, but like scrappy go-getter, give me all the hats, I'll figure it the fuck out kind of person. That identity supported me in that role. But there comes a time when the identities aren't supportive for your life. I want you to consider just the energy of, I'm scrappy, I can figure it out. It means that I'm always putting myself in positions where I need to figure shit out, where I need to think creatively. And while that's supportive in the startup space, when it's your identity, it bleeds over. And so nothing in my life did I understand at all. There was nothing in my life that was certain, concrete, stable. From 2016, I was like, oh my God, okay, I'm scrappy, I'm gonna figure it out. I'm still working on my degree. I'm still now working full time. And because I wanted to work at this startup, I moved back in with my grandparents. And so now I'm living with a heroin addict next door, my senior elderly grandparents, my mom doing her best to take care of both of them. Nothing in my life was calm because the identity was helping me survive whatever I was facing. What happens when we get attached to that identity though? Well, then the plot can't twist the way the plot must. What has to happen? Again, the rubber band comes in, it twists, it twists, it twists, it twists, it gets tighter, it gets more compressive, it gets hard until something breaks and snaps the rubber band, and then it all unravels. Repete, let's do this again. So here I am in the middle of my grandmother's living room, collapsing on the fucking floor, freaking out, being like, oh my God, I think I need to quit my job. This is now 2019, 2018. I tried to leave because I wanted to transition out, but I didn't finally hit my breaking point till 2019, early 2019. I was like, oh my God, I need to leave my job. But keep in mind the identity, I wasn't going through any identity deaths or identity shifts, really. I don't really believe in identity death anymore. And that's something we'll talk about in Masterpiece, but I was going through these identity shifts. I ended up making an accidental consulting company. It was like every time I just let the thing go that I was attached to, shit just started to fall in place. Like I couldn't fuck it up to save my life. And quite literally, that was what I cried when I collapsed on the floor. As I turned to my mom, I was like, I just want the freedom to fuck up for a while. And she goes, I got you. Like, do you want to go back home? Do you want to go stay with your dad for a bit? And I was like, nope. At the time, we didn't have a great relationship. But she was like, okay, like whatever you need, I've got you. Like it won't be easy, but we'll figure it out. My mom's also very much like, we'll figure shit out kind of person. But then I couldn't fuck up. Like all I wanted was the freedom to fuck up and I couldn't do it. It was like anything I did, it just worked. I had a 100% close rate on any sales call that I had. I applied for grants. I applied for shit and it just kept coming to me like with ease. And I was like, I don't understand. Why can't I fuck this up? But what I started to notice was there's a way where I couldn't let myself even do the bigger, scarier things because I was like, wait a minute, I'm not building the thing that's for me again. I created a new identity of entrepreneur based on all the people that were surrounding me, but I wasn't building my business. I was building the business based on what I thought people needed and wanted. And they did need and want it. But just because you can do something doesn't mean that it's for you to do. It's a very big distinction. And I could feel that on like a base note level, but I didn't have any guidance around really aligning my internal being with the direction I was going. Flash forward into the end of 2019, I was like, fuck it, I got to go back to corporate because being an entrepreneur is a lot harder on my nervous system than I had anticipated. So I went back into corporate, and at the same time, I started taking my coaching business a little bit more seriously. But then what happened? A new identity of being a very spiritual entrepreneur came up because that's all I was exposed to. That's all I was surrounded by. And so any level of discernment where I'm like, that's not for me, there was no internal permission to say, I can say no to that. I can be not really vibing with that thing. And so I would take on all of these things. Maybe this is the fact that I have an open ego center and an open heart center, but I would just take on what I was exposed to, put it on as an identity, and then that identity would help me survive whatever I was moving through. That's what was happening. And so finally, like when the identity turns into pressure, the identity must go. And then so all I could feel was like, oh my God, this identity, it served a time, it served me for sure. But there's something off about the rigidity I have around this identity. There's something off about the intensity of this identity. I gotta let it go. This is where I'm currently at. Of the plot twist of my life where I went from good girl academia to fuck that, I gotta be applied knowledge and learning, to corporate world baddie, to entrepreneur, can't fuck it up, to a spiritual entrepreneur trying to figure her shit out. Like all of these identities, the reason why they exist is to help you survive whatever that chapter of your life is. And for a number of years, I've really believed that if we kill our identity, that we're just gonna be fine. But the identity serves a purpose. We just have to get good at letting go of identities that aren't of service anymore and letting the new identity step in with less intensity than the ones we've been attached to in the past. So the plot can twist as the plot does, because your plot will twist. When we look at the reality of most people is they'll have 6 careers in their lifetime. That's 6 distinct careers. Sales exec, baker, accountant, like 6 distinct careers in their lifetime. But we're not so good at letting go of the attachment to who we've been to give rise to who we're becoming, because we also have a really fucked up relationship to who we are, as we are, wherever the fuck we are in our process. We have this attachment to believing that we need to be the static thing rather than ever evolving and ever changing. And so when people interact with one another, they expect to interact with a static identity and not an ever evolving person. This is the issue, right? Because then we feel like, oh no, I have to maintain this identity. I'm fucking stuck. And then we end up living entire plot lines that don't feel true to us to live. So where's my plot twisting? Well, my plot is fucking twisting and turning all over the place because nothing in my life is stable again. Nothing. I have no stability in my life. Now, I'm not coaching you to have no stability. This is my plot line. This is my shit to figure out. Inside of Masterpiece, I'm having you be more curious about where is the identity that's needed right now, and where can I not be so attached to it staying? Where can I not be so committed and intense behind this identity? Where can I just be right now I'm an entrepreneur. Right now I'm a lover girl, and I'm a lover girl until it's not true anymore. And I'm not going to stay attached to being that because it was convenient or easy or simple to know, right? But I'm going to let myself evolve and shift and grow and change. So inside of Masterpiece, whole premise is like old school life coaching. And I'm talking old school. This ain't about like nervous system healing, although that's a natural default part of it. This isn't about expanding and quantum jumping. It is about you being in life, living out loud, meaning you're so present and participatory in your own life. I mean, your relationships, your job, your business, if you have one, your love life, your sex life, are you really leaned in? Because what I have realized is that a part of my distortion with a lot of the feminine teachings is that I have not been leaned in as an active participant in my life because I've been too, I'll lean out and the universe will take care of me. But I don't want that kind of a life. That's not the life for me. My life and my relationship with the universe is participatory. It's engaging. It's activating. It's alive. And so if I'm too surrendered, then I'm starfishing with the world. And so this is why I don't teach feminine masculine dynamics. I talk about humanity, and I talk about the fact that when you are fully participant here as a human in your everyday life, the divine comes through you thereafter. But you have to start as a human. You have to start here right now, how you're feeling, how you're being, how you're showing up, and choosing to participate from that lens. If you're interested in joining us in Masterpiece, there are 3 different payment plans. You get a group coaching call every month, as well as a private coaching call every month. This is because I have realized for myself that I, love intimate group containers. So this is not a container of 100 people. This is very, very small. The intimacy of a group container allows me to know that I'm not alone in what I'm journeying through. But I've also come to realize that I personally needed a lot more one-on-one attention to grapple with some of the more vulnerable things that I haven't really been fully comfortable or felt fully safe enough to bring out loud to a room full of people. And that I want more of that one-on-one direct attention and specificity around what I need to be doing. What else do you need to know? Listen, you're going to come up around shit. Things are going to happen in your life. We're just going to look at it from the lens of you don't need to be any more healed. You don't need to be any more spiritual, that you get to be who you are, as you are, where you are in your process, and your life gets to unfold in these really beautiful, amazing ways that when people open up their Instagram account and they see that you're live, that they will still tune in. So if that's something that you desire for yourself, shoot me a message. Just say you're interested. If it's not the right time for you to join Masterpiece, let me know. I can put you on the wait list for the next round. I will be very clear. If you are not on the wait list for the next round, before the doors for this round close, you will miss out on this present day pricing. Pricing is absolutely going to change between now and November when the doors open again. Okay? I love you guys so much, and I will talk to you later. Mwah!